My sister-in-law was pregnant with a child diagnosed with mosaic supermale syndrome. After I explained to the family how difficult it would be to raise a child with such a genetic defect, they finally decided to abort the baby. But later, my sister-in-law gave birth to 3 daughters in a row. They began to regret their decision, blaming me for causing the death of their only son. The two of them conspired and murdered me. My mother even chose to help them conceal the truth. When I came back to life, to that moment when my sister-in-law proudly announced her pregnancy with a son and asked for my advice, I immediately chose to move out. If they believed a supermale child could be guided by love, then let the whole family experience that guidance themselves. During a prenatal checkup, the doctor confirmed it was definitely a boy this time. Watching my sister-in-law, Sophia, caress her belly with a look of utter pride, I realized I had been reborn. Remembering the agony of being hacked to death in my previous life, I said nothing, unlike last time, only pretending not to hear. After all, supermale children often harm those closest to them first. All I needed to do was stay far away. It seemed working at the hospital was a good thing for Daniel. Otherwise, no doctor would ever reveal a baby's gender. Seeing mother didn't praise Sophia for carrying a son, but instead complimented me, Sophia pouted unhappily. What? The doctor clearly said there was some extra chromosome. I just know it's an XY something son. Yes. The doctor even said it was mosaic supermale syndrome and advised termination. Sophia deliberately stuck out her belly, head held high, proudly stroking her stomach. I think it's because you can't have a son that you're jealous of me. My precious baby is a boy, and he even has an extra chromosome. He's a man among men, he's sure to become a great general someday. Her words struck me as so ridiculous, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. That sent Sophia into a furious rage. She stormed up to me, pointing her finger at my nose and yelling, "What are you laughing at? Don't you dare look down on others. So you studied for a few extra years, what's so great about that? Over 20 and still no one wants to marry you?" She promoted the idea that education was useless, believing that truly great people didn't need schooling. She always had an odd confidence in herself and my brother, thinking they were superior, yet she was incredibly sensitive, often imagining others looked down on her. Mother saw the conflict between Sophia and me. Fearing I would stop providing for the family, she quickly intervened. "Hey, what are you saying? From the time they got married until now, Anna has poured money and effort into them. How can you say she looks down on others? It's only natural for a daughter to spend money on her brother and nephew, isn't it? It's precisely because she's too good to you two. She even supported her through college. In my opinion, after junior high, she should have started working to help the family, and when she came of age, been married off to bring in a dowry." Sophia paid no mind, still acting as if it were her due. Besides, who wants her money anyway? If she hadn't forced me to go for those prenatal checkups, enduring those radiation machines, who knows, I might have given birth to 2 supermale babies at once. 10,000 curses screamed in my head, but outwardly I maintained a gentle demeanor. After all, escaping this blood-sucking family, as soon as possible, was what truly mattered. "You're overthinking, Sophia. I'm just so happy for our family's good news that I'm looking ahead. It's just that our house is too small. After the baby is born, there definitely won't be enough space. It just so happens that my workplace has arranged dormitory housing for me these past few days," I said, "so I'll move out first, okay? It'll also make it easier for everyone to arrange the nursery sooner." Before they could react, I turned and went back to my room to pack. Sophia trailed behind me, her eyes fixed on my luggage, as if fearing I would steal something from the family. She even brazenly rummaged through my medicine, completely missing my subtle hints, nonchalantly tearing through my belongings with her hands. Only after confirming my suitcase contained nothing but a few changes of clothes did she finally move away from the doorway. I stifled the urge to slap her, then pulled my suitcase towards the door, only to find Mother standing in my path. She rubbed her hands, a sheepish expression on her face. I knew she wanted me to bring up the living expenses again, but I deliberately avoided it. "Mother, I know you're reluctant to see me go, but I'm just trying to think of our family, you know? Don't worry, whenever the hospital isn't busy, I'll definitely come back to visit you." I intentionally took Mother's hand, my eyes welling up as if I were genuinely heartbroken to leave, just to provoke Sophia. Sure enough, Sophia believed it. She stomped over, hands on her hips, and argued with Mother. What exactly did I do wrong? Marrying into this family and living with my in-laws is one thing, but now I'm being squeezed out by this old maid of a sister-in-law that no one wants. Wake up, you people are a family, only I'm an outsider. My child and I will just sleep on the streets then. Taking advantage of Sophia pulling Mother aside to wail and throw a tantrum, I seized the opportunity to slip out of the house. As soon as I stepped out, I bumped into Mrs. Chen, our neighbor, who had been peeking out, watching the drama unfold. Seeing me, she immediately pulled her head back but then greeted me warmly. Mrs. Chen smiled and stepped out, unable to contain her curiosity. She pointed at my suitcase and asked, "Anna, what's going on?" Mother, hearing Mrs. Chen's voice, ignored Sophia, who was still rolling on the ground having a fit, and rushed out after me. This was because she always pretended to value daughters over sons to maintain her moral standing and public image. If outsiders knew she was kicking her daughter out for her son, the image she had built for years would crumble. Isn't Sophia about to give birth? Anna, as the older sister, is showing love for her brother by giving up her room for the baby. We couldn't stop her. Mother fabricated, but Mrs. Chen's gaze swept past Mother and settled on Sophia, clearly not believing the explanation. Our house was in an old apartment complex with poor soundproofing. She must have heard all the shouting and crying earlier. People say that grown daughters have no home to return to. I never believed it before. Now, looking back, it's truly so. My salary card was confiscated. I was treated like a freeloading burden, constantly suppressed. I tried to play the role of the pitiable victim, tears welling in my eyes. Mother immediately panicked and tried to cover my mouth. "What nonsense are you talking, child? Who's kicking you out?" "Mother, I know you're in a difficult position, so it's right for me to leave." I gripped Mother's hand, gave her a quick glance, then quickly grabbed my suitcase and rushed out, leaving Mother to babble explanations to Mrs. Chen, who finally managed to close the door after a long struggle. Mrs. Chen was famous for being the neighborhood loudspeaker, and as expected, by tomorrow evening, the entire neighborhood, even the cats and dogs, would know that Mother had kicked her daughter out for her son. After packing my simple belongings, I finally found some peace. I turned on my surveillance camera to check on the situation at home. Sophia was gleefully texting her dear husband. And Mother, who always complained about being poor and suffering in front of me, was unusually busy in the kitchen, preparing a lavish spread of delicacies. While cooking, she didn't forget to lecture Sophia. Before, when she lived here, she wasn't that expensive. I used the excuse of helping her save money to take her salary card. Now that she's gone, expenses will definitely increase, and the amount you give your husband will decrease. Haven't I already transferred the house to you and your husband's names? What are you afraid of? When she was home, she was just another person to help take care of you. Why did you always have to see her as an eyesore? Hearing Mother's words through the camera, the last shred of hope within me vanished. I once thought Mother treated Daniel and me fairly. It wasn't until Daniel tricked me home and murdered me, and Mother helped hide the body, that I understood. She only didn't want to be condemned by the world. My father died young, and I always felt sorry for Mother living alone, struggling. Seeing only a little rice left in my bowl, I often pretended to be full. But I didn't know Mother secretly cooked chicken drumsticks and pork for Daniel, fattening him up, while happily eating the leftovers herself. In college, I worked multiple jobs to earn tuition and living expenses. Mother would then claim to be sick from fatigue, take all my scholarships, and give them to Daniel, who had dropped out and spent his days carousing. All her words about hoping I would be better than a son, about fearing Daniel wouldn't be capable enough to protect me, they were all lies. When Daniel made mistakes, Mother always stepped in to resolve all his troubles, even using all my savings and her own funeral money to pay off his debts. That was Mother's real love. Even if she moved out, shouldn't she still be responsible for the expenses? Besides, she has no children, so won't she still have to rely on her nephew for support later? It's because I pitied her that I took her money. Others might not even get that chance. Mother's words seemed to awaken Sophia, but she refused to admit she was wrong. Her throat constricted, yet she still forced herself to shout to hide her guilt. Mother, fearing the neighbors would hear, quickly raised her hand to shush her. "Isn't it noisy enough? Let people know how our family schemes against Anna. Be careful, or people will point fingers at you on the street later." Sophia huffed angrily, still intending to argue, when Daniel walked in and cut her off. "My baby is truly amazing." He hugged and kissed his wife incessantly, openly calling her the family's greatest hero. The whole family ate dinner, laughing and chatting boisterously. In the midst of it all, Sophia began to boast about the supermale baby in her womb, while simultaneously cursing the doctor who gave her the results. That hospital must only deliver daughters, that's why they wanted to trick me into aborting this precious son. Supermale just by the name, you know he'll grow up to be powerful and formidable. As she spoke, Sophia's face radiated pride, as if her son was already a man above 10,000 and she herself was revered. Mother was simply overjoyed at the prospect of a grandson and eagerly chimed in, but Daniel's smile slowly stiffened. He pulled out his phone and started researching supermale syndrome. The more he scrolled, the tighter his brows furrowed. Daniel had been pampered by Mother since childhood, unable to endure any hardship. After dropping out of school, he shamelessly spent the money I sent home. When I graduated and returned, fearing exposure, he used the excuse of not having a degree to get a relaxed security guard job. For such a man, truly taking on the responsibilities of fatherhood was already difficult, let alone caring for a supermale child who would require much time, effort, and could even pose a danger to him. I read online that supermale children are often easily agitated. Maybe I should ask Anna. Hearing Daniel intend to call me, Sophia's face scrunched up in objection. What would she know? She's an old spinster no one wants to marry. What if she and that doctor conspired to harm my son? They probably get a commission from the hospital. That's why they insisted I get checked, making me lose a child. That old hag doesn't want me to live in peace. Seeing Sophia confidently spouting such nonsense, I couldn't help but laugh. I had poured in money, effort, endured countless times, only to ultimately be accused of plotting harm. Watching Mother and Sophia take turns criticizing me, Daniel hesitated for a moment but still decided to call me. After all, she's family, we should ask her opinion. But I knew that in their eyes I wasn't family, I was merely a sacrificial lamb. If I advised abortion, they would say I killed their nephew and then kill me, just like in the previous life. If I advised keeping the child, and anything happened to the baby later, they would pin all the responsibility on me, forcing me to be tied to the child for life. Anna, what do you think? The doctor said there's a possibility of supermale syndrome. You're a doctor, you must know more. I'm not an obstetrician, how would I know? The obstetrician said to abort, but Mother and Sophia can't bear to, so they want your opinion. Your sister is definitely siding with the doctor. Don't listen to their nonsense. Sophia frantically pulled out her phone and shoved it in front of Daniel. Look. It's written very clearly online. As long as they're cared for and guided properly, supermale children won't necessarily commit crimes. In my previous life, I had wholeheartedly cared for my two nieces, yet when they heard of my death, they didn't grieve for a second, even happy to inherit my assets. Perhaps others could raise a supermale child to be a decent person, but this family absolutely would not. You're the father, your decision is what matters, I said. However, Daniel wouldn't give up. He immediately changed the subject, trying to trap me. Let Mother talk on the phone. The dorm doesn't have a spot yet, so you'll have to rent a temporary place, requiring a deposit and a year's rent. Can you transfer X amount from the salary you sent me earlier? Hearing me proactively ask for my money, Mother panicked, stammering, unable to utter a word. Are you not going to give it back to me? Or are you going to say you're keeping it for me and then secretly give it all to Daniel? He's married now and he can't even support his own children. Does he still have to rely on Mother and his sister? Sophia, who always considered herself superior, immediately flared up upon hearing me badmouth Daniel over the phone. She snatched the phone and berated me furiously. Annalie, what do you mean? You just earned some dirty money, what's there to be proud of? It's better than some people who have children and still have to ask others for money. Seeing the situation escalate, Mother immediately snatched back the phone, wanting to use her old tricks of moral pressure. Anna, you know how much money our family spent to marry Daniel off. I know what I did was wrong to you, but I truly had no other choice. Will you blame me? If this were before, seeing Mother cry so pitifully, I would surely have softened and strained myself to help. But the previous life had taught me that all of it was merely a tactic, forcing me to sacrifice for her precious son. She knew she was wronging me, yet still took all my money. If she truly felt guilty, she should have made Daniel work honestly and save money to pay me back, not shed a few fake tears while the whole family continued to shamelessly leech off me. Mother didn't expect me to speak so bluntly and was momentarily stunned. Sophia, who Daniel had been holding back from speaking, finally broke free, snatched the phone again and continued her tirade. You jinx! Who do you think you are? Helping your brother and nephew is only natural. I warn you, hurry up and get married to earn dowry money, or else don't you dare step foot in my house for the rest of your life." Hearing the dial tone, I knew my years of salary were gone, considered repayment for mother's upbringing. After all, money could be earned again, but life was singular. To completely sever ties with this cesspit of a family, I immediately applied for a transfer, pulling strings, hoping to leave before Sophia gave birth. But to my surprise, a series of foolish actions by the entire family accelerated the due date. "What do we do now? Anna, the sky is falling." Mother dragged my arm, crying loudly in the hospital ward where I worked, pulling me all the way to the door of the operating room. Seeing me in a white coat, the doctor was initially annoyed, but seeing I was a colleague, his attitude softened slightly. "You're also a doctor. How can you be so irresponsible with your own family? You didn't bring the pregnant woman for checkups from the start, and then you let her eat whatever she wanted. It's already confirmed to be supermale syndrome. Why did you still dare to give birth?" I paid no attention to the doctor's words, only quickly flipped through the medical records. After I left home, Sophia had no more inhibitions, completely indulging herself. Mother believed that a pregnant woman's cravings were what her grandson wanted to eat, so she indulged Sophia in everything she desired. As a result, the fetus was too large to pass, and it caused her to go into premature labor. To make matters worse, she hadn't had prenatal checkups, so they didn't know the umbilical cord was wrapped around the baby's neck. "What do you know? You have to eat a lot to raise my grandson to be fair-skinned and plump. Back in our day, we didn't have any checkups when we gave birth and our children grew up just fine. You people just want to extort money. Besides, boys are naturally mischievous. Why do they have to be aborted? Just by looking at you, I can tell you've never had a son, so you don't understand anything and you're just jealous." Mother argued loudly with the doctor, making his face turn pale. "Just sign the surgery consent form. Why call me here? I'm not an obstetrician." I annoyedly tossed the medical record into Mother's hands and turned to leave. "No surgery? Absolutely not. Natural birth makes a child smart. Surgery is expensive. What if it hurts my grandson?" The doctor was speechless at her ignorance. Patiently, he explained the consequences. "The fetus is too large to pass. Now the umbilical cord is wrapped around the neck like a noose. If you insist on a natural birth, the baby will suffocate to death." Hearing that, Mother's face turned ashen. She hurriedly shoved the surgery consent form into my hand. "Then sign it quickly and pay the money too." It was then that I realized. From the beginning, Daniel, who should have been the one to sign the form as the child's father, was still nowhere to be seen. Where's Daniel? He's the father and husband, he should be signing this. He's at work, he can't get away. Your signature is the same. I was seeing a patient and got dragged here. Daniel is just a security guard, what's he so busy with? Or does he simply not want to take care of his wife and child? The surrounding family members began to whisper. Mother lowered her head in shame but still wouldn't let go, shoving the paper into my hand. "Why won't you sign? I'm a woman, I don't understand these things. You're educated, you sign it, sign it." She pushed the pen into my hand, holding it tightly, as if wanting to guide my hand to sign. "When it comes to a life-or-death situation, doesn't the pregnant woman have the right to sign for herself?" I then handed the consent form back to the doctor. His eyes, looking at my family, were filled with helplessness and confusion. The pregnant woman is already in the delivery room but refuses to push, only wailing loudly. She keeps saying she's the family's greatest hero. When we mentioned the child's dangerous condition, she immediately cursed the doctors and nurses, accusing us of extorting money, then saying we were jealous of her supermale baby and plotting to swap him. If she weren't exhausted from screaming, she'd probably try to give birth at home by herself. Seeing I wasn't falling for her tricks, Mother began to panic, no longer caring about appearances. She plopped down on the floor, clutching my legs and throwing a tantrum. "You heartless wretch, you won't even care about your own nephew. Do you want me, an old woman, to live? I can't live anymore." Many patient families around began to record videos. Mother thought if the video spread online, public opinion would pressure me to do as she wished. "For a little bit of performance, you want to murder your own nephew. She was healthy before coming to the hospital, now you say she can't give birth. Aren't you and those doctors colluding to extort money from your brother? Didn't you only contribute a little money when he got married? Are you still holding a grudge, neglecting your family? Have you forgotten, when you were in college, your brother dropped out to work and support the family? You ungrateful, heartless wretch, do you have a conscience?" Mother was confident that if she just pretended to be miserable and blamed me for being greedy, outsiders would side with her and force me to obey. My brother got into fights, stole, and was expelled from school before he even graduated. How did that turn into sacrificing for his sister now? I leaned close to her ear, whispering each word clearly. Do you think slandering me for all these years can whitewash your son's reputation? Everyone in the neighborhood knows about his misdeeds. Do you think putting it online will reverse right and wrong? You'll be exposed by netizens, and the whole country will despise your family. The surrounding family members began to whisper. It's true, she's a biased mother. Her daughter-in-law is in critical condition, and her son hasn't shown his face, yet she makes her daughter bear everything. This kind of family doesn't deserve to be saved. If they are, they'll probably blame the doctors. Seeing the situation completely fall apart, Mother finally stood up, saying she would go to the director's office to complain, but still looked back to observe my reaction. Seeing I remained indifferent, she panicked and said louder, "Today I'm going to show the director what kind of ungrateful wretch he's hired, daring to keep you here." Fine, fire me. Your family of 5 only relies on Daniel, who works as a security guard. With a salary of just over 1,000 yuan, let's see how many months you can last. She understood the consequences and immediately stopped talking, instead taking my hand and starting to play the emotional card. Anna, you're the only one in this family with a future. Now that your brother is in trouble, you have to help him. Family members must support each other, you know? Support? You people just unilaterally bleed me dry, don't you? Seeing she was about to explode again, I immediately pulled my hand away. No need to comfort me. Just drag it out, let your grandson suffocate to death in the womb. Then both mother and child can die. Let's see if you'll still have money to find a new wife for your son. Oh, by the way, if he's suffocated for too long in the womb, even if he lives, he's likely to suffer brain damage. Anyway, it's not my nephew, so I'm not in a hurry. Hearing me say that and seeing me indifferently sit down on a chair, she jumped up in agitation. She dragged and pulled at me, but I wouldn't budge. Finally, she had to call Daniel. It turned out he had been hiding somewhere in the hospital, observing everything. Only now did he show his face, his eyes blazing with anger at me, as if I were the one endangering his wife and child. What are you looking at? Go pay the money quickly. As he signed the surgery form, he even dared to order me. I secretly glanced at the full name he wrote on the paper, Li Guangzhang. As I handed the paper to the doctor, Mother started her tricks again. Is the surgery guaranteed to succeed? Making us sign isn't just to shirk responsibility, is it? Daniel understood her meaning and echoed her. The two of them took turns shouting loudly, clearly intending to blame the hospital if anything went wrong. Seeing this, I didn't hesitate any longer. I took early leave, went home to pack my bags, and immediately moved to my new workplace, cutting off all contact with my family. From then on, no longer bound, I poured all my energy into my work and quickly got promoted and received a raise. I once thought I would never be involved with them again in this lifetime. But unexpectedly, one day when I returned home, a neighbor called me back. Both apologetic and angry, she pulled me into her house. It turned out my family had tracked me down. My nephew was running wild, clutching a pile of things. Bottles and jars were shattered all over the floor. The entire room became a mess. Mother and Sophia paid no attention, sitting on the sofa, tossing fruit peels and sunflower seed shells onto the floor. Occasionally, they would remind the child a few times, telling him not to fall. Daniel was even worse. He sat cross-legged on the coffee table, laughing loudly. The smell of foul feet mixed with cigarette smoke filled the living room. Over the years, thanks to Mrs. Chen, my neighbors had a rough idea of their family situation. When my nephew was born, his condition was very bad. To save her precious grandson, Mother borrowed money everywhere, even mortgaging the house. But true to his supermale nature, he survived with strange resilience. Not only did he live, but he was also extremely hyperactive, crying day and night. Daniel, as before, had no ambition. The family of 4 relied solely on his meager security guard salary, never having enough to eat. Mother had tried to work extra jobs, but Sophia made it difficult for her. Sophia was also frail and couldn't do heavy work, considering herself the family's greatest contributor. She ordered Mother around all day, never lifting a finger to care for the child. Driven to a dead end by money, the family resorted to theft. Mother, being shameless and old, was only detained for a few days when caught. My nephew would snatch food from anyone he saw, indiscriminately stuffing it into his mouth. At first, people would come to their house demanding justice, but they couldn't stand the family's thick skin. If violence didn't work, they would throw tantrums, roll around crying, and even shamelessly show up at people's houses for free meals. People were forced to stay away from them. Neighbors saw them as nothing less than plagues, and everyone avoided them. Until the house they occupied was bought by a gang, they were finally evicted from the place they had lived for so long. After years of searching, they finally found some information about me. They immediately sold everything, dragged the entire family, and followed the scent to my location. The neighbors saw I wasn't home yet and kindly invited them in to wait, never imagining they would turn her house into a battlefield. Looking at the chaotic room, I felt sorry for my neighbor, but also annoyed that she had let them in, forcing me to face these shameless people again. "Where have you been all these years? Mother called and called, but you didn't answer. Were you pretending to be dead?" She blamed me for all the hardships of the past few years, raising her hand to hit me. Mother quickly held her back, signaling that the neighbors were present. "This cheap whore even changed her salary card, huh? Do you think you can escape by doing that?" Sophia showed no politeness, spitting sunflower seed shells directly at my face. My nephew followed suit, throwing everything in his hands at me, then running over and stomping on my feet, kicking and biting. No one in the family stopped him. On the contrary, they laughed gleefully. "Good boy, hit her harder. Kill her and all her assets will be yours." Hearing this, I shuddered. The scene from my previous life, being beaten to death by Daniel and Sophia, came rushing back. Mother had even stood by, cheering them on, saying I deserved it. Thinking of this, I made up my mind. If I couldn't avoid it, this time I would end this menace once and for all. This life, they wouldn't stop me again. Didn't Mother cause a scene at the hospital last time, making the director angry, which resulted in me being transferred to a low-paying job? Now, even eating is difficult. I feared they might do something reckless if cornered, so I pretended to be humble to keep them calm. "Everyone must be hungry from waiting so long. Let me take you to eat something first. Sister Wang, I'll come back later to discuss compensation." "What? Just a child making a bit of a mess, and you want money?" "You're definitely jealous because our family has a son?" Sophia spat directly on the neighbor, then glared at me. "You're truly a prodigal daughter. You rent a house outside and spend lavishly. That's my son's money, you know." I just smiled and didn't answer. Anyway, they wouldn't be laughing for much longer. In my previous life, 2 murderers had come to this area. Based on my memory, I found the hot pot restaurant where the incident had occurred years ago. I sat down right next to them. "Order whatever you want, feel free." My nephew grabbed the menu and pressed buttons wildly, ordering a whole bunch of dishes, making the staff struggle to write them down. Then he scrunched up his face and acted childish, saying, "I don't want anything." No one in the family scolded him. On the contrary, they praised him for being smart and knowing so many words. The restaurant staff glanced at them, then scoffed, which displeased Daniel. As a security guard, he always had to bow his head. Now was his chance to act like a big shot and show off. "What do you mean, looking down on us? Bring out everything on the menu." The staff were too lazy to argue, which made him think they were scared. He puffed out his chest, bragging to Mother and Sophia. My nephew looked at him admiringly, eyes shining, waiting for an opportunity to show off. While waiting for the food, the child couldn't sit still, running around everywhere, screaming and laughing, snatching food from other tables, sneaking into the women's restroom to peek, and even shamelessly lifting the skirts of female customers. Whose child is this, so shameless at such a young age? Finally, a braver girl grabbed him by the collar and dragged him out of the restroom. He refused to cooperate, rolling around and screaming, scratching the girl's arm and trying to kick her. "You're an adult bullying a child? How shameless!" Mother rushed over, pushed the girl away, and hugged her grandson, comforting him. Daniel also came, his eyes lecherously scanning the girl from head to toe. Ever since Sophia had a difficult birth and her health declined, she had always been self-conscious about her appearance. So much so that if Daniel even glanced at a stray dog, she'd explode. Now, seeing Daniel look at such a beautiful girl right in front of her, she dared not get angry at him, so she took out her anger on the girl. "Dressed like that, aren't you asking for it?" She grabbed the girl's hair and slapped her directly in the face. "So what if he looked at my child? Afraid he's too young and doesn't have enough money to pay? No problem, I'll pay for him. You cheap tramp, daring to seduce someone else's husband." The poor girl could only hug her head and cover her face. Luckily, her friend and I managed to pull them apart. As I was comforting the girl, Sophia pulled out her wallet, dumped out the few coins she had left and arrogantly threw them directly at the girl's face. "Is that enough? If not, tough luck. Someone like you is only worth that much." The two girls were college students and had never encountered such hooligans. They stood stunned for a moment, then cried and ran out to call the police. I immediately chased after them. "Don't stop them. Today I will definitely make them pay." "I won't stop them. On the contrary, I'm willing to pay extra, as long as you absolutely refuse to reconcile." The two girls looked at me in surprise for a moment, then nodded seriously. The incident caused dissatisfaction throughout the restaurant. The manager also didn't want the family to stay, but they were always unruly and wouldn't easily back down. They immediately argued with the staff, accusing the restaurant of being condescending and bullying customers. Daniel brazenly grabbed the manager by the collar to threaten him. My nephew, taking advantage of the chaos, kicked the manager hard, then laughed gleefully and ran off. But joy turned to sorrow. He slammed into a staff member carrying a pot of boiling hot pot water. The staff member reacted quickly, holding the pot steady, but a little water still spilled onto his leg. He screamed loudly in pain. "Are you blind? Are you crippled? How could you let my grandson get burned like this?" Mother rushed over, shoved the staff member, and accidentally bumped into my nephew's burn, making him cry out in pain, sweating profusely, clutching his leg and groaning. Sophia hugged her son, quickly removing his shoe to check. It was only slightly red, but that was enough for the whole family to make a scene. "This cursed restaurant. If you can't kick people out, then you take it out on children, huh? I can't live anymore. This restaurant bullies children." Daniel was about to hit someone again, while Mother rolled onto the ground right in front of the restaurant entrance, crying and fabricating stories, cursing the staff, which drew a crowd. The manager desperately tried to pull Mother up to avoid further trouble for the restaurant. Ma'am, please get up first. Can I offer you this meal for free? If you're still worried, I'll take your grandson and the staff to the hospital for a checkup. You have to pay 100,000 yuan in full, not a penny less. Otherwise, I'll smash this restaurant today." Sophia shrieked, her voice choked, as if her son had suffered some terrible injustice. The owner saw that this family was clearly here to cause trouble, lost patience for negotiation, and his face darkened. "Call the police." Seeing the situation wasn't going well, Daniel backed down but still acted as if he had a lot of power. "Well, seeing as you're pitiful, I'll be generous, just 10,000 yuan. Seeing the owner pull out his phone, about to call the police, Daniel clearly began to worry. 1,500, 200 is fine too, right? The owner was physically and mentally exhausted by them. He just wanted them to eat and leave, so he reluctantly agreed. The whole family excitedly returned to the table, reordering all the expensive dishes they had been too stingy to order earlier. There was no longer any redness on my nephew's leg, but the family still carefully applied medicine and bandaged it, placing it directly on the table as evidence. The foul smell from their cheap shoes and smelly feet mingled in the enclosed space, making those around them wrinkle their noses. Customers at the next table were all uncomfortable. Only one table behind my nephew remained silent, eating. Because he couldn't walk around, my nephew swung his chair back and forth, bumping into the adjacent table multiple times. "Can you control your child? Can't you let others eat in peace? Ill-mannered people can't even sit still." The whole family ignored him. Sophia even pouted, her voice sarcastic. "What do you mean, can't let others eat in peace? An adult bickering with a child? How petty." The other person was about to say something but was held back by a friend. Though still angry at the words, he sat back down. Seeing someone defend him, my nephew regained his spirits, made a funny face, and continued playing. A while later, bored, he stuffed a sock into the hot pot, then held the sauce-covered sock and swung it wildly towards the next table, splattering clothes and even landing in their hot pot. That table couldn't take it anymore. One person fished out the sock and stuffed it directly into my nephew's mouth. "Kid, food is for eating, not for playing." The person had a large scar on his face, which made his expression even more terrifying when he smiled. My nephew screamed in fear. "Are you even human? Don't you dare bully a child." Daniel sprang up and punched the scarred man directly in the face. Sorry, my friend had a little to drink. He's a bit out of control. He must have scared your nephew. Sit down and talk." The scarred man's friend quickly apologized, but unexpectedly my nephew punched him in the groin. In pain, he grimaced. My nephew clapped his hands, laughing with delight. "Good job, son. You know how to protect mother. You bastard, are you scared now?" Sophia hadn't even finished speaking when her joyful face turned to horror. The scarred man had grabbed my nephew and thrown him into the boiling hot pot. My nephew screamed pitifully, trying to thrash with his hands and feet, but with a child's strength, all struggles were useless. The man pushed his head underwater. Mother f ****** R. Daniel tried to rush in and fight back, but the scarred man's friend blocked him. Before he could say a word, the arrogant look on Daniel's face vanished, replaced by a grimace of pain. At some point, the other man had grabbed a fruit knife and stabbed Daniel directly in the stomach. 1 stab, 2 stabs, 3 stabs. The blood on his shirt grew more and more. Finally, he twisted the handle hard before pulling it out. Daniel gasped and fell, dying in disbelief. Sophia rushed forward, kicking and hitting the man, but could only wail hopelessly, too short to reach her son, forced to watch him slowly lose his breath. "I'm going to kill you, kill you!" Bang! A pot of boiling water poured over Sophia's head, extinguishing the hatred in her eyes. She writhed on the ground, screaming in agony, but the scarred man still had no intention of stopping. He grabbed the hot pot and repeatedly slammed it down on my nephew's head, one blow after another. And Mother, as soon as she saw her son and grandson in peril, had fainted from fear. The other diners were shocked into stupor, and the entire hot pot restaurant descended into chaos. Luckily, the 2 girls and I arrived just in time with the police, and the 2 murderers were arrested on the spot. Mother, both terrified and heartbroken, suffered a stroke. Her limbs and tongue were no longer nimble, but she still shrieked, demanding to personally avenge the deaths of the 2. However, they had taken many lives and would surely be sentenced to death. For them, and for my brother's family, this was a good ending, despite some regrets. As soon as I finished speaking, Mother's face twitched visibly with anger. She tottered with her cane, trying to hit me. "You ungrateful wretch, if I had known, I would never have given birth to you. Your brother and his whole family are dead. You're their sister and you don't even think of revenge. You just sit here, mocking and sarcastic. Don't think I don't know. From the beginning, you kept me only so you could raise me and marry me off for dowry money for your brother. So what? Did I lack food or clothing from you? You ungrateful, wolf-hearted wretch, aren't you afraid of divine retribution? I'll sue you. Sue me. You're not even 55 yet. I have no obligation to support you. And in your condition, it'll be hard for you to live that long anyway." She clutched her chest, her limbs trembling. "Don't you dare dream of getting a single penny from me. I'd give it to charity before I left it to you." I opened the door to leave and immediately ran into Sophia's family, marching in menacingly. As expected, they had come to demand a share of the compensation. "Are you people trying to swallow it all? When Sophia had a difficult birth, no one in your family showed up. Now that she's dead, you're all scrambling for money. You've probably heard already, all the money is with her. If you want it, ask her." I pointed to Mother, then thoughtfully closed the door for them. After that, the sounds of smashing and furious cursing erupted from inside the house. "You wretched old woman, if it weren't for you, my daughter and grandson wouldn't have met such a fate. Why didn't you die with them?" Mother, who had been strong her entire life, could now only be cursed and beaten without being able to retort. She was so provoked that she collapsed into unconsciousness. If someone had called an ambulance then, she might still have been saved. But the other family, in a panic, had all scrambled to escape. By the time passers-by saw the wide-open door, felt something was amiss, and went in to check, she had long since passed away. All the compensation money fell into my hands. In my previous life, that whole family had caused my tragic death. Now, it was as if heaven had repaid me. Mother, though not killed by Sophia's family, could not escape joint responsibility. The court ruled she had to pay a portion of the compensation. Of course, I knew well that this family was a bunch of scoundrels who wouldn't pay a single cent, but doing so blocked Sophia's family from continuing to demand money. Afterwards, I sought out the girl who had been harassed at the hot pot restaurant and gave her a portion of the compensation. With the rest, I bought a house and lived a life that, despite working diligently my entire previous life, I could hardly have dreamt of.